Now, in this same time frame, Japan's just snoozing. They're like Rip Van Winkle. They've been asleep this whole time. And then suddenly they hear a knock on the door. Wakes them up. They go to open the door up. They find a cannon pointed in their face. It's the US Navy. See, the United States Navy had gotten fed up with Japanese isolationism. Japan is still doing this Sakoku crap. And America would like to trade. And good luck for the Japanese that it was America, because if it had been anybody else, they would just come in and conquered them. The Japanese, they've kind of been living in this state of delusion. They have contact with the rest of the world, right? They do like allow information in the country. They know that the rest of the world is changing. Yet the government and culture are so insular that they haven't fully been able to appreciate the extent of the change until the United States sends the Commodore Perry expedition, pictured in this painting. Ironclad ships, what the Japanese call the black ships, sailing up to their coast, brandishing their cannons with a carrot and a stick. The carrot is all the cool stuff they bring along. They bring along a little like toy, a little miniature train track with a little miniature steam engine to show American engineering. They bring along a full minstrel show, a blackface show, to show the peak of American entertainment. Oddly enough, the Japanese loved it, and they still have blackface shows to this day. And they bring along all kinds of different instruments, scientific tools, little doodads to show what our culture was capable of, to show what they could gain if they were willing to open back up. Now, that's the carrot. The stick is we have a giant cannon, and we're going to blast your door open if you don't open it up. So this startles the Japanese. They're startled awake now, and they look around, and they panic because, oh my God, the world is on fire. The British are rampaging around in India, looting everything. The British are rampaging around in China, looting everything. The US is like, shit, we didn't even know there were people to the east. We thought we were the land of the rising sun. Apparently, there's more stuff over there. They realize that in their isolation, the basic rules of the world have changed. China was always big brother. They literally have this like phrase, it's like big brother, little brother. China was always big brother to Japan. Japan looked up to them. Japan considered them like the basis of their own civilization. Now they realize that big brother isn't that tough, and they better find a new big brother. And so, and for the Americans, it was shocking to see just how regressed this place was, because the Japanese are living a medieval existence. They're very urbanized and they're very literate. Those are two things they have going for them that even a lot of the Western world doesn't have yet. But the social structure itself, the understanding of science, the way that they fight, it's like a fairy tale. It's like one of those fantasy countries where nothing ever changes. So the Japanese are in a panic because they realize faster than China did that if they don't do something, their culture may not exist in the future. They might get ground down and taken over like India was. And so they do something absolutely remarkable. They go on the world's fastest crash course industrialization and westernization plan. First thing they do, a faction of the samurai coups the shogunate. I didn't tell you what the shogunate was. That's what they called Tokugawa. His title was shogun of the country, general. They kick out the warlord who's running the show. They bring the empire back. The emperor has been a religious figurehead this whole time. more like a pope of Japanese religion than like an actual ruler. Well, he's going to be the ruler now. And this is called the Meiji Restoration, named for Emperor Meiji. And Meiji says, okay, we have no time to waste. If we want to survive this world, we have to become as Western as we can. It's the technology that worries us, but we don't know why they're so good at making technology. It's got to be something about their lifestyle. So copy all of it. And they copy all of it. How do Westerners run a bank? How do Westerners run a farm? What does a Western code of law look like? What do Westerners wear? In Japan, it's not a taboo at that time to run around naked. Westerners don't run around naked. Lock them up. Pass public indecency laws. The Japanese start to wear things like three-piece suits and top hats. And when you look at photos of their surrender from World War II, they're wearing three-piece suits and top hats. It's goofy. It's out of date. The West had already moved on, but it's like they're rummaging through, the bargain bin. They've gone to the thrift store and gotten whatever they could. But most remarkable of all is the way the Japanese transform their political system. Emperor Meiji understood that there was something about the Western political system that was enabling it to create a society like this. Many times in the past, there had been rulers who had wanted to make their country more Western. Peter the Great in Russia was one such. He was famous for building St. Petersburg, for inviting Westerners into trade, for fostering the sciences. And yet the advancements that Peter the Great led didn't last. Because at the same time he does that, Peter the Great cracks down on serfdom and makes it worse. He takes serfdom and turns it into something that actually is equivalent to American slavery, where the serf is property that can be bought and sold. Not legally, but they allow them to do it. Russia fails to develop properly. And Japan's not going to make that mistake. And it is incredible. One of the most incredible political figures in world history, I believe. This ruler has the humility to recognize when he needs to stand aside and share power. Because what he sees is that the British have a constitutional monarchy. The Americans have a constitutional republic. They allow their people to vote. They have checks and balances. I may be a god, but my people need to have some say in the government. They need to have some freedom. I may not understand why the American and British system works, but it does. It speaks for itself. And he's going to create for the Japanese people a constitutional monarchy. They get to vote. Later on, Japan goes fascist during the Great Depression, but they have a functioning democracy up until that point, just like the Germans do. And you know what happened? See that map that I showed you way back when? Japan survives. Japan, there's a few other countries that survive. They either survive due to dumb luck or they buddy up to a European country that protects them from the other Europeans. But Japan, they're unique because they're the only non-European country, the only non-white country that becomes a colonial empire. Because the Japanese are going to go in. That's another thing they adopt too. The Europeans do colonialism. We have to do colonialism. They're going to conquer Korea. That's why Korea hasn't been under European control. It was under Japanese control. They're going to take over Taiwan. Later on, they'll start making other grabs on mainland China. And eventually, they go too far with it. And that sparks World War II. They're actually fighting World War II before the Germans are. Japan's fight with China is going on in the early 30s, long before Germany tussles with Poland. But the Japanese, even though they're not going to be able to survive American military might, they managed to enter the modern world on their own. And that's why they're going to be able to survive the transition. It's true that America helps build them into what they are, but they had already built something for themselves on their own. They're able to go democratic after World War II because they've been able to do it on their own before. They're able to industrialize after World War II because they had already done it. When the last vestiges of that monarchical government are swept aside, it takes away the last limits on them. But the Japanese are already in that direction. It's a stunning people. I tell you, it's not a story that's real well known in the US. There is a movie called The Last Samurai starring Tom Cruise that's set during that time period when some of the samurai rebelled against Emperor Meiji. But I think in a way there's kind of two really great stories of the modern world, two stories that just give me the shivers. One of them is the American experience, and the other one is the Japanese experience. Because they managed to withstand, the flood. And they're able to withstand the flood like that because they understand there's a link between the political system and the economic system. And there's a link of both of those to their culture. And they have to transform both if they're going to make change last. The Chinese they don't think that way. They don't realize their mistake until it's too late. And in the end, it's going to be Japanese rolling through China, pillaging, instead of the other way around.